You like it a little?
I did, that's great.
Oh, get
You went up
everything
to
in order of the
I just brought you.
Yeah.
Kind of, he's over there, and I just have to go back and watch it. Did you give him a deed? You did.
I did, yeah.
You got the first one. No. It just came in the mail.
What is it?
It just came in the mail.
He doesn't know.
There we go.
Oh, because our new
Doesn't even. Yours, I got Kelly.
This works on that. No, guess what? So what we can do,
You can.
when, if I'm sharing, it can be up there and we can do the little counter.
We can take one behind us.
We are, how are you?
Those two.
Yes.
I got to touch base with him. Coming to work for him next week. He said he wants to try the architect.
All right.
He's like, about 4 years on there, so we can compare these. I'm like, that sounds perfect.
Oh, folks, there we are. Get my first page out so I can round this properly. Hold on. Yes, I can. I'm sorry. All right, we're gonna call this meeting of the City Council of Red Lodge, March 26th, to order. If you stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. We go through great efforts to make sure that the community we're doing what we can to inform the community, and it certainly helps when you all come as well. Can we start with the roll call of officers, please?
Westwood,
Here?
Conley,
Here.
Daniel, Steve,
Present.
Miller,
Here.
Ronnie,
Here.
Tupin.
Here.
All right, thank you. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I would move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
Let's do a quick roll call vote, please.
Conley.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Ronnie.
Yes.
Tupin.
Yes.
All right, we do have a quorum. First up is mayor's business and mayor's reports, and I apologize. I'm going to, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hang up on my phone so it doesn't disturb us during the meeting. In the rush there, I forgot to put it in, so there, that won't happen again. So first up is mayor's reports. Just a couple of things to provide updates on. Our RFP for planning services closed on Friday. We received 3 bids for that, and I am currently distributing that to our planning board chair and vice chair, as well as our building inspector. And then with Lonnie, we're going to look at it and kind of figure out our timeline and next steps. Having said that, our goal is to have that company selected by the 15th of April, which is when we lose Cody. So that way we don't have a gap in those services.
Where's Cody going?
She's leaving us. No, she had some changes in her life, so she switched companies and went to another county. So we actually got an extra bonus month and a half out of her because they kept her with us to finish out the contract. Furthermore, she is actually continuing to work with us through April as our floodplain manager. That's a separate contract. And so that's going to help us get the Rocky Fork Inn project done. So she's going to stick with us through that. But the planning services, staff, running the planning board, and things related to that will transfer to the new position.
As well as I know that Great West also has a grant for our
growth policy and the downtown plan, so Cody, who started that, is gonna just turn that over?
I don't know on that specific, I can follow up on that. If you'll make sure that's captured in the minutes, I'll make a note to myself as well. I was not smart enough to ask that question yet in the transition plan, but we will have a formal transition meeting when we do that.
Okay.
And some of the decisions that need to be made will actually naturally take place after we've selected who that business is or that company to take that over.
So just to clarify, we're going to continue, contracting out the planning services at this time.
That is a correct statement. And the reasoning behind that is so that we can bring in something akin to a city manager. Of course, we won't call it a city manager, but the problem we have, whether we change forms of government or not, is we still have to pay for that individual. The expectation, the goal, the expectation that will be set is that that position, as we bring them on, has to basically help us to the point that it pays for itself.
Right.
But given the choice of evaluating the last few months, which service we can outsource, the planning services that come in, or kind of that financial, from a government standpoint, management, which one of those is an easier skill set to get as a part-time basis versus a full-time basis. So that was the logic behind that decision. All right, we do not yet have our audit report back. I am anticipating it. I would be much less surprised if we got it before this week is done than if it's more than a couple weeks out. Is that a fair statement, that we're expecting it sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I actually got it in the mail.
Oh, we have it.
So
So we will get that out to you and also to the public as quickly as possible.
it's been uploaded to the, state website, so it's currently there.
So you can already get it if you go out to the website, but we will make it easier by sharing a link with you so that you have that. We had a department head meeting yesterday. It was kind of our first budget, and I had not had a chance to meet with Jody Moore, who's our librarian. Everybody else I'd been kind of working with, but I was a little bit remiss in touching bases with her. So we had a department head meeting and had everybody get together. The large part of that discussion was about finances, and part of that specific ask is how we can better tell our financial story to the public so that it makes sense, they can understand where tax dollars are going, rather than the numbers that we all deal with are basically just account registers. So we go in there and we have, 100, 200, 300, 900, and that's how we do things from the budget, but that really doesn't make a lot of sense or value. And so one of the things we're doing there is we're kind of starting out with a big pie picture of here's the services, but then as we do a drill down on each department, this is where the money for that department comes from. So this is from general fund, this is from resort tax, this is from enterprise fund, and then kind of a little summary of these are the services we get out of that. So people can say, there's what I'm paying, there's where the money's coming from, and there's what we get out of that. Because then we can have that conversation about if we need to shift and juggle things, we've got an understanding of what that is. As you all know from experience and or observing, most of the conversation ends up kind of revolving around general fund because that's the spot where we have the most control and the most flexibility. There's a lot of stuff, fees, in fact, we'll be talking about stormwater later today, that those funds are earmarked. So there's really not a discussion. There is, here's what it's available, but I still think we need to account and say, here's what we're getting for it, and here's what we're addressing, and see if there's questions that we need to address.
I just wanted to comment that, Jen Battles, in her budget presentation last year, put together some very nice pie charts. I think were really helpful for the overall budget.
I have received a copy of that to incorporate bits and parts and include as there. So
Way
thank
ahead of
you.
me as usual.
Thank you for the feedback. Oh, March 28th. My do not disturb doesn't work if my phone is alive, and my neighbor really wants to talk to me right now. March 28th will be a presentation for the public that Ashley from the extension is putting on. What we will do is we'll get that information out. Lonnie, I think we should be able to do that via Google Groups and just kind of send that out to folks. As well as I will post that on the mayor's page. So any of you who are kind of interested in the process of the form of government change that all of the municipalities in the state of Montana are going through this year, just at a very, very high level, in June on the primary ballot, there will be a measure that says, should we look into changing forms of government? If we do, we form a commission, we spend some money. In November, the people who are interested in serving on that commission run for that commission. They are elected, basically the top, did we go with 3?
Yeah.
The top 3 vote getters will be on that petition, and then their job is to go attend some training and get some information and spend 2 years studying and making a recommendation, or rather, that time frame leading so that 2 years from now, we can have a vote if we want to change that form of government. So this is a process, it's a 3-year process. We've already started it. So anyway, there'll be a presentation on that on March 28th for the public. Anybody who's interested in that, get it from Google Groups, or you'll be able to go online and get it from there. Contract negotiations have officially opened with our public works. We have our first meeting set up. I want to say it's in April. I don't have the date right in front of me. I have a little fill in the blank that I didn't get to yet. So that is coming up.
Contract.
So we have 2 unions that are basically local 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not the numbers. We have one. They're all part of the same union, which is a municipalities.
Negotiated labor.
It's hard to get on the same call, so that's your question.
Yeah, because no publicly comment.
That's all right. There are worse things than having your neighbors like you. So we have 2 unions, one for our police and one for our public works folks. And then the other part of that that's kind of funny is that normally it's all silence and it doesn't matter, but because I have my hearing aid in, I'm hearing it when it rings, so I apologize for being distracted. The police have not yet officially opened theirs. They have the option of opening it just for salary discussions if they want to, or wage discussions. But this one is a 3-year contract with the Public Works Department, and that's opening up this year. Okay? So one of the things that I would be interested in collecting from the Public Works Committee is if you guys have thoughts of things that we, when we go into these discussions, they come in with things that they'd like to see. It's also our opportunity to go in from the city side for things we like to see. While I have some ideas, certainly from being in the chain of management for that department, I welcome input from the Public Works or from the council as a whole. And if there's things that are controversial we need to discuss, then we'll discuss it as council. But if council as a whole directs that we go for X or we go for Y, we've all seen the org chart. That's certainly in council's position to do that.
Typically, does someone from council
So,
take part in that, like someone from Public
We-
Works Committee?
so in the past, here, it is my understanding that there has been somebody from admin and finance
Okay.
that has participated in that. The answer is, we can have whoever we want to have in that. So I've talked to Mike Maples, our Public Works Director, because that was something that I had initially, kind of heard, concerns about having management in those discussions, but as I did some research and found out it's absolutely acceptable. And so my thinking is at this point, that he will include that. I may also, include, some members of our community that also have government and union background contracts, and I have zero problem, if we want to include. The only request is that whatever team we start with, we're gonna maintain throughout, so that we don't start out with a member from admin and finance and then switch to a member from Public Works, and then we spend 50% of our time bringing up to speed. So before we get to that discussion, if you guys want to make a recommendation of who to include, I will certainly be willing to take that into account. Or furthermore, you can take it as far as saying council directs you that you will include somebody from such and such a committee. But I'm also just really good on subtle hints and suggestions. But I'm just reminding the council that they have that prerogative.
Fair enough. Fortunately, there's two of us that are on both.
Yeah, that's true, and I would be absolutely okay with either one of you, participating in that, and, because you would be representing both committees at that point then, and plus council as a whole, so.
Councilmember Tupin, did you have anything else on that you wanted to ask, or just?
No,
Okay. You look like you had a question, so I just didn't want to skip over
She's
you.
volunteering.
All right. My understanding is that I mentioned the staff meeting we had earlier this week, and my understanding is that Lonnie shared with the admin and finance a little bit different approach on how we approach the budget. One of the things that we have done historically is that we have transferred those over into spreadsheets, which was nice because everybody was very familiar with them. It was also somewhat problematic in that it's prone to human error, and I think we've all probably encountered something that turned out just to be a typo at one point or another. So the new form is actually generated directly from the system, and then it has some fill in blanks. It's a little bit new layout, but at the same time we have new department heads and stuff as well, so it was kind of a good transition. It was also some feedback we got from the auditors. I don't know that it was really a ding per se, but they questioned, why aren't you taking advantage of this functionality that's built into the program? It's a module that we have. And so Lonnie has graciously stepped up to the plate and said, let's give it a go. And
10
so,
years of doing it.
Pardon?
After 10 years of doing it.
Yeah. That's all right.
We did talk about that in admin and finance, and there are definitely pros and cons, to that system, but I thought it was easy to follow, but the commentary is missing, so if we can figure out a way to.
We did find out that we can add comments to it. So
Okay.
she can add comments.
Yeah, and I told them that you can add notes, but it's not in detail like we did.
Well, it can be however much detail we want. It just means that it'll get longer and longer. And by the way, we are not banned from using, we are not banned from using spreadsheets. Yeah, the goal ultimately is to be able to relay information along. So that's what we're going for. The last thing I wanted to address just in mayor's reports is last time, we had up for action a grant, that was basically an energy savings grant that came up. It was a very, very large dollar amount. And it did not pass council, but there was a follow-up conversation about if we could look at that in conjunction with a couple of different projects that we already have on the schedule, specifically the stormwater system and also the sewer bypass. So under direction, our public works director and also our engineering firm both spent some additional time, even though they had already invested, like I said, I think the week before we got it, I bet $1 easily that Mike spent at least 20 hours kind of looking into it and trying to prepare and get that information for us. They looked at it this time and came back and said, the savings are $2,000, I think $2,300 a year is what we're saving in energy costs, and that's a pretty thin application to justify spending the effort on to try to get that grant. It wasn't likely that we were going to be winners, and so we made the call to say we looked at it, but we made the decision to not move forward with it at this time. So I just want to share that. It was not done in haste, but we did some additional looking and effort, and the feedback was just it wasn't going to be worth spending even more effort, particularly given all the things we have that are already taking their time and energy. And a lot of those things are on our agenda today, and those are real deadlines and real issues we have to address. The only other thing, which is kind of a fun thing, I had the opportunity on Sunday of issuing a mayoral proclamation for long-term Red Lodge resident, Marklyn Lynn. She went by Mark. She will be 100 years old on April 2nd. And it turns out that's not really the story. April 2nd is what it says on her birth certificate, but she was actually born on April 1st. And in 1924, the doctors in Cincinnati, Ohio, would not write April 1st on a birth certificate. So on April 2nd, I feel fairly comfortable saying she will be the oldest 100-year-old celebrating a birthday on that day. So I was very honored to do that. It was a fun presentation. And She had so much energy, I told her if she'd be around for 200, I'd be there again, and we'd do it again at 200, so, that was kind of a fun thing. That's all I had on my report. Is there anything else that council wanted to ask on from mayor's reports that I may have missed?
I know that we've been talking about the current, solar, energy that went up 12 years ago. Does it work?
So.
Does it actually save us money?
So, I believe the answer is yes, but the answer is the Public Works Director is still looking into that and looking to quantify it in a way that we're all comfortable with. So, but again, there was a distinction between that system, which is feeding directly into the grid, versus storage and the batteries, which is where the concern was there. There was not a concern that anybody has against solar. It just adds some complications and some issues, and we still have limited resources to work with. Somebody made the example, with that grant. I made the decision, we walked away. Imagine somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I want to give you a free horse. Anybody who's ever had a horse or been around anybody with a horse knows that may or may not be a gift. All right, the next we have a presentation. Is our presenter here? All right. So please step up to the podium and introduce yourself. If we can I have one of the stout young men on the front row move that a little bit closer to that mic?
So you want me?
Yep, I'm just gonna make it so that mic will reach so that it can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, and then rotate, and then just put that little thing on it so we can hear.
And do you have ability for me to share a screen?
If you are joined into the meeting, or if you want to email it to really quickly, then I can project it.
Well, I have it on a zip drive. Won't work?
Do you have the ability to put it on it might be quicker if you,
I can do it on.
yeah, we can do it from that machine. Hold on.
Okay.
And then just a little Tinkerbell sound whenever it's time to turn the page.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor Westwood and council, for having me come. I am Lynn Adele Nielsen with the Just Serve website. That is an international website that is being used across the country to recruit volunteers. And so hopefully we can bring the PowerPoint up. It's a little bit, it explains a little bit better and in color form than I can.
And do you by chance have a hard copy of that we can include in the minutes for next time?
The PowerPoint?
Yep.
Absolutely, I can email
Or
it to
if
you.
not, we'll
Or you
start
can
when
just
you're not
keep that.
looking, and then.
Yeah,
we
you
from
can
there.
keep that. Okay.
We don't Microsoft on that computer?
No, we do, I just don't know.
Well, you're almost there, I think.
Yeah,
There
let's,
is a
we'll
couple of
just
videos
look
here,
around
too.
it, because that takes a minute or three.
I
So-
don't even know what our key is to get into that. This should have it, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
If we go up under view, can we go into full screen presentation? Under view, there should be like presenter mode in the
Right.
top menu.
Under view, yeah, right,
Uh,
right at the top.
right in the dead center under the
orange.
green. Yeah, except you can't go, no, go down. This is fun. Now go up slowly to view.
View. Oh,
One
No,
to the right.
problem is we can't open PowerPoint.
No, but you can do, oh, well, okay.
Can't open PowerPoint without activating it. Lonnie, if you send it, or if you
Oh.
give me that hard drive, I can open it online and you can, I can do it.
Okay, we can do it that way.
Sorry, keep moving. Well, in the meantime, rather than taking up a lot of time, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Just Serve. JustServe.org is a website where volunteer needs of organizations are posted, and volunteers search for opportunities to enhance the quality of life in our communities. Just Serve is a free service that links community volunteer needs with volunteers and does not discriminate based on race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation in posting projects or encouraging volunteers to serve according to the Just Serve guidelines. I do have a video, but you can bring that up.
And Lauderdale comes from Billings, and so.
Yes, I'm in the Billings area, working the Just Serve. Teresa is here in the Red Light area as a Just Serve specialist. We do have two organizations on the website from the Red Lodge area. We do have the Community Foundation and the Red Lodge Chamber, and we have done projects at the Red Lodge Chamber. During the flood, Just Serve was very active out here in the area with volunteers in the flood. So if you can go down to the third,
Yeah, just get it in slideshow mode here real quick.
Okay.
It's been a minute since I've used PowerPoint.
okay.
Where is that? This guy here.
As a file view presenter.
Share.
There we go.
All right, so you want slide three?
Slide 3, and then you're just gonna have to click on it, and there should be a little arrow. There you go, right down there in the
Play.
corner, there's a little arrow.
Oh, gotcha. Hold on a second.
Now, if we can't hear it, you're gonna go ahead and hum, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't have any audio.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's not it. And you can't turn it on.
Technology.
Technology, isn't it great?
Note to self, if you want to do a presentation for the council in the future, send us the stuff in advance and we'll all get it printed off and have it ready to go.
So, and I didn't realize I could send this actually to you. You know, what I'm gonna do is, I'm going to do the audio this way, how's that?
That works. Just, oh, great. Oh, wait.
Opportunities for service are everywhere. You just need to know where to look. We now have a free community resource. It's called Just Serve. This is how Just Serve works. Faith, nonprofit, and community organizations submit their needs on justserve.org, including how long the service will take, when and where it will happen, what skills are needed, and what ages it may be appropriate for. Then you match your situation to their needs. Do you want to serve in the community, but you only have an hour and a half on Thursday? Go to justserve.org and the site will show you projects that match your availability. Want to find ways for your family to serve together? Looking for a simple way to recommend service projects, reach out to volunteers, or build friendships and unity in the community? Go to justserve.org. Getting involved helps people in need and provides opportunities for you to serve side by side with others in the community. So let's start with our communities and just serve.
He thinks that up pretty dang good.
I'm impressed, not gonna lie.
Okay, so, just a little bit more about Just Serve. Here, if you want to scroll down to, slide 7. This is, well, let's come right here. This is where you go on. You actually have a phone app or your computer, and you just go on to justserve.org, register up in the right-hand corner, and then confirm your registration. And then you can go out and view any of the projects on the Just Serve website to volunteer in your community. We really would like to get more activity going on here in the Red Lodge area with your nonprofits and government, so that volunteer opportunities are available here in your community. If you want to scroll down again. Okay, so this is how it works. You just go out and find a project. You invite your friends. First you register, and then you find the project, invite your friends, and then you help out and you connect everybody in your community together, serving together. Next slide. This is the Just Serve Advisory Council. There is a lot of leaders in a wide variety of charitable organizations and other enterprises which focuses on volunteer service. Why do we volunteer? Well, we need, we may not solve the world hunger immediately, but we are convinced that by serving each other in our local communities, we're paving the way for much broader changes. Our individual efforts don't need to be huge. A little bit of change here, a few hours there, but even small efforts quickly add up to make a real difference. And as we work side by side, we learn from each other, mutual understanding increases, misconceptions can be corrected, and new friendships are built. There are some guidelines to the website. The best service opportunities are collaborative, so working side by side with faith groups, nonprofits, community, and government organizations. Community service opportunities should enhance the quality of life in your community and assist the poor and those in need. Just Serve projects should not have political or other advocacy focus, be for profit, or directly involve volunteers with soliciting in any way. These are some of the organizations that are presently on the website in the Billings area. You can see underneath there, you can see that the Red Lodge Chamber has been on here. But these are some of the organizations participating in the, on the Just Serve website locally in the Billings area. So we have over 100 right now in the area. Okay, here's another little video. Let's see if we can make this
Sync it up as well as we did last time.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, wrong one.
I got your leaves on. Sorry. You're good.
I gotta get to this one.
One of the things that we have a lot of questions from the community, from faith-based organizations, is how do we give back to the community? How can we get involved? The Just Serve program has basically allowed us to give volunteers a direction.
It allows you to go in, find something that fits your personality, your family.
If I could sit down with another council member in another city that was either looking at this or had talked about it, I think what I would say to them and what I have said to them is that this is one of those types of programs that will, again, help your city be a success.
I just love volunteering here because it kind of takes me out of myself and puts me into the community, and it just makes me feel like I'm making a difference.
Okay, so the next slide is about our Community Day of Service, which we would love to be able to have this area participate and be able to put some projects on the website for April 27th, 2024. Fromberg has put on a project to help with the baseball field. I know the Chamber has helped in the past, but if there are organizations that would like to participate with a project, then we will post that on they just need to reach out to the Just Serve reps, and we will post that project for that day in your community from 9 to 12. And so then I'm just going to show one other cute little video that happened last year at our Community Day of Service at Zoo, Montana.
Captain Baker.
That's what our job's going to be.
Yeah, isn't that not the perfect clothes for that?
She picked the perfect gloves.
Find service projects near you, visit justserve.org.
that's my presentation. We're just out and trying to include the Red Lodge area in this website for your community to participate and recruit volunteers to help with your parks, with your city, whatever needs to be done that volunteers can be used for.
Thank you. And it looks like you have some extra copies, so,
I do, I
If-
have some out there.
Yeah.
And does anybody
and then,
want
and
any?
if you have any extras, if you want to leave them with our city clerk, we'll make them on the counter available for folks as they come into the office.
All right, okay, great.
And I'll work and get it on the website.
Any questions?
Only one. Do you send out emails to volunteers with weekly projects in their area?
Yes, once they register on the website, there is a profile that they fill out with the interest that they want to have. And then as those projects pop up on the website, then they will receive an email.
Excellent. Thank you.
Is there a little checkbox on there where you can say, don't call me in the middle of city council meetings?
I don't know that that's there, but it might be a suggestion to send on to
No,
the
that's,
development.
we're good, thank you.
Thank you.
I do. All right, thank you for that, and thank you for the patience of the public as we dealt with some technology issues there. At this point on the agenda, we are open for the part for public comment for anything that is on the agenda. There is another section for public comment at the end of the meeting when you can speak about anything within the city's business that you'd like to. But right now, it's a public comment specifically limited to the agenda. And just to set expectations, this is your opportunity to speak and be heard, not necessarily to get answers and responses to questions that may rightly take some research and background to look into. So with that, we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to speak, come up, state your name, where you reside, and then I'll start my cute little egg timer, and you'll have 3 minutes. Public hearing is now open. I'm not very loud with it. All right, I am not seeing any, but in the room, is anyone online for public comments, regarding items on the agenda? Going once, going twice, 3 times to make it official, and we'll go ahead and close public comments. I will entertain a motion for ordinance number 968.
Oh, you gotta open public hearing first.
Oh, pardon? Oh, well, wait, do we do the public hearing before we do the motion? All right, so, another public hearing. Our first item is an ordinance which will require 2 readings, so we'll have 1 reading now and then another reading at a future date. And this has to do with fees collected for solid waste. This is the conversation about, we currently collect those fees on taxes, and we're about 1.5 years behind, which as costs escalate, it means that we're in the red during the year. And so we'll open the public hearing for collection of solid waste.
Do you want me to go
No,
over?
we said we do the public hearing first, so that's
Oh,
all right. Thank you for the feedback. All right, anybody online? Going once, going twice? We'll close the public hearing on which fees are collected for solid waste. Now, I will entertain a motion so we can start discussion.
I move that we, proceed with resolution number 968, set process in which fees are collected for solid waste.
Move to approve?
Move to approve.
Ordinance. Ordinance 968, you said resolution.
Yes, so
Yes. Oh, it's
ordinance and then
ordinance.
say
Oh, sorry,
first, and then
sorry.
add first hearing, or
Ordinance.
first reading.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
Reading from my notes. Want me to start that over?
Take 2.
Somebody else should do this. I move to approve ordinance number 968, setting process in which fees are collected for solid waste. First reading.
I second.
Seconded by, Councilmember Conley. Thank you. Any discussion?
Well, it's really tough because, you know, I realize the monthly impact on our residents that are on a fixed income. This is going to hit them in their pocketbook monthly, where, yes, they will save on their taxes the same amount. It's not that we're raising the fees, we're just collecting them differently. And it's been kicked down the road, I imagine, for quite a few years, because the city has been paying it prior to receiving the money. Like you say, 15 months. Background for the people in the room is it's collected on our taxes, which the first half of which is due, say for the year 2023. The taxes, half the taxes are due in November of 23, and the other half May of 2024. But monthly, the city gets a tax bill. So the city pays the tax bill.
A trash bill?
The trash bill, yes.
Very similar.
Yes. They pay the trash bill monthly, so they pay January through November, then they get paid half of that, hopefully, if people pay their taxes, and they still are behind at that point, and then it won't be till May, and so they're already behind 5 months from 2024. So it's just the wrong way to collect money for trash collection. Trash collection in the county is twice what we pay here in the city, so we are getting a good deal. I just, I hate that those on a fixed income will hurt their pocketbook until they get their tax bill. And the renters that currently pay their own water and sewer will be paying that themselves, whereas the seller or the owner of the rental will get the break on it. So it's a toughie. But
Can I clarify that though,
Yeah.
Sandy? All the water bills are in the homeowner's name, not in renters. So it's between the homeowner and the renter as far as how
it's
being
paid?
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to
So it
clarify
won't
that.
indirect, so what you're saying is, it won't change the party that's being billed to switch it to the water bill, because that already goes to the property owner.
Correct.
Not necessarily, because again, we know that a lot of those homeowners currently, even though the homeowner is listed on that bill, the tenant is still paying that amount.
But that's not the city's responsibility.
Right, I
That's between
understand that,
the
but,
homeowner and the renter.
but it is still something to
Well,
consider.
hold on. No, Councilmember Tupin, you have the floor.
Sandy, if you wanna finish your thought, but,
Well, my thought is that this has been kicked down the road, and I think that we're in the cul-de-sac. I think that it probably has to be done, but I do it reluctantly, simply because I know that it's going to be painful for a few months until the tax bills come out. But then I also want to know, if they start, if this starts in 30 days or 60 days, then the tax bill will be only for the first part of this year.
Mhm.
So there'll have to be quite a bit of math going on here that I don't even want to do. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it gets caught up so that when they get their tax bill in November, it doesn't include a whole, year's worth of, okay.
And there will still be some, just by the nature
Yeah.
of the fact they're paying so far in arrears.
Right.
And so what we'll have to do is we'll have to work really well to make sure we explain that to the public so that they understand it.
I just wanted to clarify, I think it's a $330 a year, fee for, that, and so on each tax bill, they would essentially be paying half of that, $765. And so I hope I'm getting this right, so on May's, this coming May's,
On November's
or
will be the
November,
first
it's gonna
one.
be half of that
They'll be paying for January
through June.
to
Of
June.
this year.
Through June, and so it'll be half of that.
But we're still paying in May too, right?
And in May, well,
We're
this May or a year from
Yeah,
now,
this May we will also be paying, but that is for,
a year ago.
like July through December of
Yeah.
2023.
and we're not
So
gonna,
hopefully, and I get your point, Sandy, about, having people double pay, but they're not really double paying because they got however many months, they got up to 12 months of basically free garbage. you know, on the beginning end of that. And now they're just getting caught up.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I understand the logic of it. I just am concerned with, the impact to the community, especially for those living on a restricted budget. Even though they're still saving, down the road, it's just hard.
It might also be easier for them to budget monthly versus twice a year.
Councilmember Miller, you raised your hand, thank you.
Yeah, that's what, all right. This is a not good story. The city of Red Lodge has been engaged in bad accounting practices. And it's my opinion that we as a council have a fiduciary duty to correct those bad. There's gonna be some fallout, yeah, it's gonna be tough on people on a fixed income. But that's part of life. And again, we have a duty to do as council members of this town. And, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And we need to, market it, sell it, whatever you want to call it, as easy as possible. And then if there's some unusual circumstances that we can help somebody out, we'll consider that. But overall, the policy that we are engaged in needs to be corrected. It's not good accounting principles.
Thank you. Show of hands for anyone else who'd like to comment?
Yeah,
Councilmember Tupin?
to finish the thought, because again, I didn't want to interrupt, but I know it's not the city's business what happens between landlord and tenant, but at the same time, we should at least acknowledge when we make a change, how that will make an impact. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, my
Councilmember Miller.
comment on that is, the city has a responsibility to the owner. You're engaged with a tenant as a landlord, that's a you problem, that's a you issue. That hasn't anything to do with the city.
I'm just saying, when we as a city council make a change, it doesn't just affect landlords, it doesn't affect landowners, and we don't just have a duty to them, we have a duty to all of our residents. So again, I'm not saying that we're doing the wrong thing, I just want it to be recognized that there's an impact that comes from the decision.
And my inclination is that landlords are already factoring in the cost of water, sewer, stormwater, trash into whatever they're charging for rent.
Not necessarily. So again, currently, it depends on what the arrangement is. In a lot of situations, the tenant is still responsible for those water bills and those sewer bills. The reasoning for that is because it's hard to factor that in when you have something that can fluctuate based off usage. So a lot of homeowners, versus having to take that risk that when you provide the water, you're gonna have them watering the backyard 8 hours a day and potentially taking a big hit on that. They have their tenants paying that much in arrears, the same way that we do as the city. And so the tenant still is paying that. It's essentially a way for them to make sure that they're not coming up in a shortfall.
But what I'm saying is, trash has also been being paid. Whether
Right.
they've been passing that on to a renter in the terms of rent, or whether they've been passing that on in terms of a utility bill.
What I say is that, yes, those are being paid and technically through rent, but this makes it a heck of a lot easier for a landlord to come in and now have that additional charge and not adjust rent to change. That's it. That's it. I just know that there will be that kind of impact.
You're saying they're not gonna lower the rent $25 a month, or
Exactly.
$30 a month?
Right,
Closer to 30.
yeah, closer to 30.
And to Councilmember Miller's point, we're not here to dictate how landlords
I
run their
understand that.
utilities and their billing.
I 100%
I hear you,
understand that.
I hear you, Chelsea.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying what we're doing is the wrong thing. It sucks that we've been doing poor accounting for God knows how many years. Just saying that we should at least recognize that change.
So how, after the November bill, property tax bill, is that the last time that we will collect garbage on a property tax bill?
That is
December of 2024.
Four will be the last property tax bill you see that has trash on that.
It's just nice to be able to tell people when that's gonna end.
Yeah, and I think that is part of the message we need to communicate.
So the bill that they would normally pay the other half in May, let's say of 2024, that will not have a trash.
In May of
Yes, well.
2025,
Oh, yeah,
that
sorry.
one won't,
Yeah.
because they have been starting to pay it starting in July. They've been paying it real time,
We'll get it.
rather than paying until the end of the tax period plus 5 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, the message will be November will be the last time that you see trash on your taxes, and going forward, you will no longer see trash on your taxes. And again, the last packet, for anybody who may have a question on that, there was a really good breakdown prepared by our front office staff in the packet 2 weeks ago that kind of explained the math and what that was. All right, any further discussion? There is a motion on the floor to pass the first reading of ordinance 968, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Red Lodge, Montana, to set the process in which fees are collected for solid waste services. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Conley?
Regretfully, yes.
Keith?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Hupin?
Yes.
Right, motion passes. I will entertain a motion for resolution number 3622.
I move to approve resolution number 3622, First Amendment resolution setting business registration fees.
Do I have a second so we can start discussion?
Okay.
All right, I have a second from Councilmember Tupin. Councilmember Ronnie, do you want to go ahead and start the discussion?
Yes, well, what we did, because of changes in, state law, we have always had registration fees for our businesses, not business licenses. So, the state passed a law that says that you cannot single out certain businesses that are charged a licensing fee through the state. So rather than, say that, you know, restaurants get this, liquor license gets this, you know, people with a liquor license get this registration fee, people with a, who sell cigarettes get this. What we did is we changed it to a tier system, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. We had tier 4 in there, but we did combine them. Tier 1 is a $100 fee, and that's basically all your general services. That really hasn't changed. That was our base fee before. Any business that does not specifically fall within one of the other categories below. So this would be your businesses, some of them can collect resort tax, such as retailers, but primarily it's going to be your contractors, your businesses that provide a personal service, and home-based businesses. Tier 2 are our temporary vendors. Those are a $200 fee. However, and a temporary vendor is anyone that does not operate more than 90 days within city limits. And then tier 3 is basically everybody else. Lodging and prepared consumables is what we're calling it. Lodging accommodations such as hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, short-term rentals, stays of 30 days or less. Businesses that sell prepared food, drinks, and smoke products, including restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores. And then we do want to change it to also include temporary vendors that sell prepared food, so that a temporary vendor license does not have a lower rate than an existing brick and mortar building. So I would like to move to amend that final sentence in that to read, businesses that sell prepared food, drinks, and smoke products. This includes restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores, temporary vendors that sell prepared food, bars, liquor stores, marijuana dispensaries, and smoke shops. Did I miss it? Yeah, I got it, temporary vendors that sell prepared food. So I would like to move to update that so that if a temporary vendor is selling prepared food, it would.
May I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
Is your intent to move forward with this tonight, or were you
No.
going to move?
No,
to
but I
table it?
wanted to have this amended.
Okay,
and
so
then
you want to
we'll-
amend it now and then, okay, I'm
Yeah.
saying, because you can just change it and present it differently next time too, if
Oh,
you want to.
okay, we can do that.
Your preference.
Okay, we'll wait, but we are, I do want to move to, change this to discussion item instead of an action item.
So,
So do you want me to move to table it, or does
So
other people
first
want to
off,
talk
yeah,
about
so
it?
first off, we have a motion to amend. So you
Okay.
can either withdraw your motion, or we need a second, and then we can discuss that. And, but given that you're gonna have a subsequent motion to table it till next time, till the date specific, then I don't know if you need to have the amendment
Okay.
tonight, but it's your choice.
Whatever's cleanest. I mean, I would like to, I do want to have some discussion on it tonight. if
Okay,
anybody-
so there is a motion to amend to include temporary vendors on the definition for tier 3.
That self-preferred,
That's, I'm
yeah,
sorry,
self-prepared
the
food.
self-prepared
Yep.
foods.
Yep,
Yeah.
I second that amendment.
We have a second by
Motion.
Councilmember Tupin.
Okay.
All right, discussion on that item. Councilmember Horning, you have the floor.
Yeah, so, basically, this would be basically, food trucks, things like that come in. We don't want a temporary vendor to necessarily have a lower rate than an existing brick and mortar business that's doing the same service. So we just,
And there's some confusion because they could say, but I'm temporary.
right, exactly, so we just wanted to clarify that, because it does say at the bottom that when a business falls into multiple tiers, only the highest tiered fee shall apply. So that's just basically clarifying that, because they would fall into a higher tier, they would pay that higher tier rate. But we were just spelling that out in 2 places.
And the justification being also that there are other requirements that the city's gonna have where they need to collect more information to have on file for those temporary vendors than they would, say, a T-shirt vendor. So they would need to have additional licensures through the state inspection, those types of pieces, which means more entry and, maintenance, typically through the admin side.
Councilmember, Conley.
As long as we're talking about amending it, after short-term rentals, the definition is stays of 29 nights or less by state.
Can I have you take a note, and let's close out this motion, and then we'll have another motion to amend?
We're motioning again?
Wait, we can only have one live at a time.
I know.
Okay, I'm confused, tell me when.
Okay, well,
Okay. Do you have any more discussion on changing the temporary, including the
No.
temporary vendor service?
No.
Any more discussion on the table for temporary vendor fees? All right, let's get a roll call on the motion to modify the tier 3 wording.
Conley?
Yep.
Keith?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Horning? Yes. Tupin?
Yes.
Are there any other motions to amend that somebody would like to make?
I'd like to move to amend, under tier 3, the term short-term rentals with a description that doesn't jive with the state description. I think that we should probably just leave it as short-term rentals and leave it to the state, or it stays of 29 nights or less. But everything else has changed to that.
Did
So that would be my
we get a
motion.
second? Oh, that's your motion first,
That's
I'm
my
sorry.
motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, now let's discuss it.
I know that the planning board changed short-term rentals to, coincide with the state description, which is stays of 29 nights or less. So it's not the days, it's the nights.
Okay. And I'm good with having
Either
it be the
removing it
same. No,
or-
I'm good with having it be the same as the planning board.
Okay.
So just delete that stays of 30 days or less?
Or less.
No, it'll just be 29 nights.
Strike 30 days and replace with 29 nights,
Or less.
Viewers, that's.
or less, yeah.
I was gonna say, or,
There you
I
go.
mean, surely do we need to have the nights in there, because then that's something that if it were to change at a state level, at a planning board level, and the STR ordinance at some point, then that way we don't have to worry about changing it twice.
Or we could just leave it as short-term rentals.
That's what I was
Yep.
saying.
Yeah.
That,
I'm fine with that.
that's kind
Yeah,
of thought.
I would prefer to actually remove it. I would like to amend my amendment.
Oh, God, we have to vote on it.
Amend my amendment.
Okay, so you just wanna do it,
Remove the description, just leave it as a short-term rental.
okay.
I can see a certain benefit of having the 29 nights or less in there, just because it eliminates the argument without having to trace back to other documents, but it's council's decision, so you guys can do whatever you want.
I think we can address it in the ordinance itself. This resolution is really just setting the fees. And we are going to review the main ordinance that has all these definitions in it.
Remove it.
So
Yep,
we'll-
I'd say remove it, because then that way we're not having to update it and change it.
Want to withdraw the last motion,
I
make
will
a new
withdraw.
motion?
I will
Well, that's part of
withdraw
her
the
motion.
last
Part of our
motion.
motion.
Yeah,
Do
she
one or
mentioned
the
it in
other.
there.
Yeah.
I did do one or the other.
Okay.
My motion was one or the other.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So just for clarity, your motion as it stands is,
Is to remove the parentheses after short-term rentals, it says stays of 30 days or less, just remove that.
Take the strike, stays of 30 days or less.
That would be my motion.
All right, is there any further discussion on the motion to amend? Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Conley,
Yes.
Keith,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Browning,
Yes.
Tupin.
Yes.
The motion to amend approved. We are back to the original motion on the table.
I had a question. I know that there was a gal that used to sell, tamales at the street market, and she doesn't live in Red Lodge, she doesn't produce them in Red Lodge, but she delivers them to Red Lodge. Would she need a business registration?
If she's collecting the money in town, in Red Lodge, if she's collecting it.
In Red Lodge, then she needs to get, and would it be a tier 1?
No. Nope. Tier 3, because it's consumable food.
Wow. I don't know if she collects enough tamales, pay $250.
I have a question. We have a whole farmer's market that
That-
falls into that category.
That is actually different, because our ordinance addresses, using your, the farmer's market itself can have the business,
And then they are responsible.
the business license, the business
umbrella.
registration, and then they collect the resort tax. and
Am I
they-
required to pick up my tamales from the farmer's market on the day that the farmer's market is open? Or can I pick it up the following Tuesday in the parking lot at the grocery store?
No, because it's not considered part of the farmer's market.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I said it's not considered part of the
So the farmer's market is only on the days of those organized
Right,
events?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that's actually something we were talking about cleaning up a little bit within the ordinance as is, because the recommendations for having it for specifically just nonprofits, we think that it makes sense to be able to have some sort of sponsorship umbrella to where you can be able to bring in folks, and then also making sure that we have applicable forms to make sure that's getting tracked correctly. So for instance, whether that's updating the resort tax form to having a line item that says, this is
Pop-up
how much
market.
I collected for a pop-up market, these are the people that I was doing it for, or even just a simple application, it's like, I'm doing an event these 4 days, these are my sponsored people, I will be accountable for their resort taxes.
And to Councilmember Roning's point, this is a resolution for the sole purpose of setting the fees.
Correct. Right.
Those rules are all set in the ordinance, which will have
Correct.
to be revisited
Yep.
and will require 2 readings at a future date.
Correct, yes.
And the timing here has to do with needing to have this done before the new fiscal year begins and people re-register.
Yeah,
Correct.
before,
And then-
I was gonna say, before notices go out on June.
Yeah, and in the ordinance, it states that the current ordinance, it states that the fees will be set by resolution.
Yep.
So by doing
Yep.
this, we're,
And that gives us more opportunity to spend some more time on the ordinance to make sure that it's really nice, neat, clean, and thought out.
And takes into account weird little corner situations like that.
right.
Councilmember Keith.
Question about this particular person that we're talking about, the tamale lady. Could she, for example, bring her tamales to Market 55, and then Jody collect the?
If she could take them, but currently, any business in town could sponsor her, even Beartooth Market could sponsor her. And they would have to, she would have to collect the resort tax, and then they would be responsible for it. You're basically putting your business registration, you're responsible for it, you're responsible for collecting, making sure that resort tax is collected and paid. So, you know, it's a responsibility, it's not just like, oh yay, come on over and
So,
do this, you know.
but like the 4-5's market is already at tier 3 by this definition.
Right.
So
Right.
you wouldn't end up having to pay more to sponsor.
No.
I asked that because you're already set up to do that,
Correct.
sponsorship umbrella.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So there is currently a motion on the table to approve Resolution 93622 as amended.
So I move to table this to our next city council meeting, which is April 9th. Primarily because, number one, we did make changes, and number two, this resolution was not in our packet last time. And, we would like, the public to have a little more opportunity to review it and,
Provide feedback.
Right, feedback.
And I will offer that we got some feedback from members of the Business Alliance that asked, why did we not mention this at the Business Alliance meeting, that something like business registration fees was
Right.
coming up? And there was like oh, yeah, that sounds like a really, really good idea.
We're on it at the next meeting.
And so we are on the agenda at their meeting on the 8th, so we can talk about it there. And again, it's just that move to do things right and make sure the public's involved and incorporated. So there's a motion to table until April 9th. Is there a second?
Second. Roll.
Any discussion? Let's go ahead and take a roll call vote on the move to table.
Conley?
Yes.
East?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
All right, the motion to table passes. I will entertain a motion to approve the city council rules and procedures.
I make a motion to approve the city council rules and procedures.
I would second that.
Discussion.
So we did make some changes to it, which should have been within the packet. So they were highlighted for everyone to review, essentially just, clarifying a little bit better about how the steering committees work, making sure their minutes are legal, and including the agenda format. But other than that, not many changes. The format of the overall document has been cleaned up. The one thing that we do need to change is the page number at the bottom, slight clerical error.
But weirdly, it's correct in this packet, but it wasn't.
I think it's after it was edited. I don't know.
I know the
It's
version
probably
I
a
have.
Microsoft problem.
For free.
Why
Oh.
not free?
The version in the packet says X of
Okay.
7, X, yeah, all the way through.
Yeah, so mine's right in here. I
It
don't
was
like,
like page 6 of 2 this morning.
It's weird.
It was, I don't know
We'll
which
need,
copy.
we'll
we're
need, to-
looking
we'll
at.
need to make sure that the copy that went in the packet is the one that we use. I would like to add a comment that I am very, very happy and particularly part 5, where we have included the agenda in substantially the formed outline below.
Mhm.
That is one of those things that is in the handbook, that they use that sort of a format. And that is what protects this council's ability to have control and say in the input. And now with that documented, that will never go away unless council gives that away. So you guys will have your time on the agenda. And that was probably the number one thing I wanted to do when I decided, Jeff, I'm gonna make the crazy jump and dive in, as I wanted to ensure that our local government is working as designed. And with this, I feel like we've made a major step in that direction.
Job's done now.
Well, we obviously, we can still work on our form, but, all right, so there's a motion and a second. Any further conversation? All right, let's get a roll call vote on the motion to approve the council's rules of procedure.
Conley?
Yeah.
East?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chelsea's been tracking all the changes.
Oh, Jody, too. Fun team effort.
All right, the next one, I need to just find a quick piece of paper that I shuffled at the front of our meeting.
I think this is also your stack over here.
Oh, thank you, that's wonderful.
Try that everywhere there, Dave. I
So-
know you got another table, like.
I'm gonna give that to you since you're on a roll tonight.
Oh.
And what I will do is hand out, this is not in the packet, but it doesn't need to be. This is just the bylaws of the Urban Renewal Agency, and I highlighted the relevant, if you want to take that, pass it down. I highlighted the relevant paragraph in their bylaws, which basically lists that there are several reasons that they can have a vacancy on their board, including that a commissioner of that urban renewal district has 3 unexcused absences. But then it states that their mechanism or declaring a vacancy is they make a recommendation to the city council, and the city council declares a vacancy. And so
All right.
pick up ever which one of those you want and make a motion, if you would please.
I get pick. Okay, I'm just gonna move to declare 2 vacancies on the Urban Renewal District recommended by a majority of the Urban Renewal District Board in accordance with their bylaws. It's really true. Naming the people, which I just think is okay to do that.
I second.
Okay, I guess now we have a discussion. So the handout has their bylaws. I apologize, I did that out of order. Any other conversations or discussion?
Well, and this first section, removal from office, the last paragraph, the last sentence.
Yeah.
It's confusing. It says removal of the commissioners shall be through city council by recommendation from a majority vote of the urban renewal district.
And they have taken that vote and a majority vote recommended that, requested that we declare those positions vacant.
Okay, so the removal of the commissioner shall be through the city council
That's what we're doing.
by the recommendation of, okay.
At the recommendation.
At the recommendation, not by, it was at the recommendation.
But we're not changing their bylaws.
No, I know, but I was trying to understand what they
Do
were
we need
trying
a
to tell
second
us.
that motion?
I did.
You did? Okay.
We
I
did.
didn't hear.
I appreciate that.
Okay, that makes more sense. I'm happier with that.
Any other further discussion? Yeah, so you can have my number one.
So now we'll just,
And then
be
you
posted,
hand that to her as well.
we'll just be posted then? in
So
all the
now,
places?
now we
The
can
openings?
post 2 openings because we have 2 vacancies. We couldn't post until we had vacancies. But is there any further discussion?
How many people are on this board? Sorry, I'm
5 to 7, I think.
7.
And we currently have 5.
Currently 5, okay. Curious.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, roll call vote.
Conley?
Yes.
Steve? Yes. Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Susan?
Yeah.
All right. And we will move forward with posting those openings so that we can fill those openings. All right. I'll accept a motion on resolution number 3645, a resolution of intent for Yellowstone Wildlife Sanctuary.
I move to approve resolution number 3645, a resolution of intent to obtain preliminary approval to proceed with further evaluation of a land exchange to formally set the boundaries that align with historical uses of the Yellowstone Wildlife Sanctuary and in exchange provide additional land to the city near the current recycling center.
Is there a second?
Just kidding.
I second.
All right, any discussion?
Good job.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Good job.
The only discussion I have is, it was pointed out that this isn't 100%, up to par with the rules and procedures of land swaps.
So let me speak and add a little bit to that. The only requirement at the state level has to do with the dollar amount.
Of the value.
The city, the value of the land must be equal to or greater, that the city comes out on the better side of that. Several agencies within the state, including the one that our city attorney used to work for, had several other factors of consideration, and so he articulated those.
Okay.
None of those are a make or no break. They're just called out for the council to take into account if there are any things of concern there. The reason that, so the next stage in this, by the way, this is just the intent to move on.
Sure.
The next stage is there will either be an appraisal or a broker level,
Broker price
market
opinion.
analysis, pardon?
Broker price opinion.
Broker price opinion that takes into account those factors, such as part of the land that the sanctuary is gaining is not really usable for anything other than looking at and putting grass on it because there's utility line underneath that.
Yep.
And so that impacts the value, and that's part of why, presuming that report comes home and confirms that the value is there, the others are just considerations, they're not make or break things.
Yep, just one double check.
A good question, appreciate it. Other comments from the floor?
Does the value of one have to equal the value of the other?
The city has to end up winning.
Okay, the city will, yeah.
Even if it's 5 pennies.
Oh, no.
Question,
From an
because
easement on this one.
because that land that we're gaining, is potentially flat and developable without utilities underneath, would that
Is that land more valuable than the other
Would that
land?
make it more valuable?
That is the presumed assumption.
Yeah, okay,
It has yet to be confirmed by a registered professional.
okay.
Yeah, see here.
Well, like I said, we'll do that as an official next step once the council gives us blessing to move forward.
Okay.
Other discussions or questions? All right, I'll have a roll call on the motion, please.
Conley?
Yeah.
Keith?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Browning? Yes. Susan?
Yes.
Motion passes, thank you. All right, I'll accept the motion for resolution 3646.
I will introduce that. This is a resolution setting pool fees. We talked about this. I move to approve. I'll get it by the end of my term, I promise. I move to approve resolution number 3646, setting pool fees for 2024.
Yeah, you want to read that right like it is. Do you not have a hard copy?
I don't have it printed out, so.
I'll second that motion that she intended to.
Okay, let me start over. I move to approve resolution number 3646, a resolution of the Red Lodge City Council to set fees for the Red Lodge City Pool beginning in 2024.
Here, right?
And I will second that.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Keys, a second from Councilmember Conley. Discussion on the item.
I think that they did a wonderful job putting these together, and I'm really excited about some of the updates and having week passes, and, I think that, again, did a very professional job with it, so.
I do have just a quick comment about the 1 week family pass at $125 per family for 1 week. Like, you'd have to have a pretty good sized family for that to pay off. Because like it's $5 per child for 5 days is $25 per kid.
Yeah.
So like,
But then you're also thinking the adults that are coming with it too, and so again, if you have 3 kids at $75, then the adults are at $8. And it's probably not just 5 days, 7 days, because,
yeah, I guess that's true.
yep.
They're open 7 days a week.
Did I recall that an earlier version actually described a family like it was a max of 4 or 5, or?
I think it was,
I think they have to be like the immediate family.
actually, I don't think we actually had a number amount, it was household.
Yeah.
Because that was actually a question that we had, was what is that number, like what is that value, and it's like we don't really describe how many people that is. So if you come in, it's like, this is my household, then, I'm sure that if you really wanted to track it, you could try and get birth certificates.
It'll be interesting to see how much that one gets used for next year. So
Honestly, I think it's gonna be really beneficial for travelers, so
That's what
again,
I was
That's
thinking.
what it's built for.
yeah,
Yeah.
and again, it's a nice feature to be able to add when, for hotels that don't have pool passes or pools, that kind of thing, for folks coming to visit their families, like, for me, I'm not going to the pool every day, but if my nieces come to town, yeah, you betcha, I'm gonna take them to the pool every day, so.
Other comments on the motion, or on the, comments on the motion, show of hands? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Conley?
Yeah.
Keith?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Ronnie? Yes. Susan?
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
That concludes the activity part of our agenda tonight. However, we now move into the council's discussion where they address the things that are going to be coming up in the future. So let me start with the public health and safety. Do you have any quick updates you want to provide from your meeting this morning?
I do. The fireworks, we've been talking about, the resolution is in progress. We're not in any rush, so we didn't spend any time on it. Public safety district, we're still, lots of discussion on the pros and cons of a public safety district. Increase in taxes for city residents for a service they're already getting if we do that. Those in the 5 mile bubble around Red Lodge are getting Red Lodge police coverage for free. And that's where we were thinking of the public safety district. It's gonna be a hard sell. Annexation pros and cons being explored with Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works is taking that on right now to basically look at what are the associated, we have some initial feedback. Public Works, Public Works Director, sorry.
Okay.
So there's some initial, expectations set of, about what additional charges have to be there. So like, is it just roads? Do we have to do anything with water? We're just kind of validating. And it's basically just a math equation. But our Public Works Director is taking the time that he needs to evaluate that and basically come back and say, I recommend we do this because it's a good proposition for the city. By the way, that would automatically address some of the public safety concerns, because those areas that would be annexed would now be contributing to the general fund, which is currently paying the public safety costs as well.
Which they're already getting police service, so.
Yeah, so we're already providing some of the services for free, and so that's, I think there's not really any further action for council at this point until such time we get a report back from our Public Works Director.
Yep, we're just waiting. And the fire department budget review, we had a discussion on the definition of capital expenditure. And Jerry's gonna talk with Lonnie to get the city's definition of a capital, expenditure. And then Doug, using that, will review the fire department budget to highlight items that might qualify as capital expenditures and can be paid through resort tax. That was it for public health and safety.
I appreciate that. And I would add that you could probably reach out to Fire Chief Coons, and he could actually help with that as well. And then the reminder on that is that's great and that's wonderful if we can pay for those capital expenses. It used to be defined as 5,000, and I believe that was removed in our last language, but it's generally stuff, depreciating stuff at that.
Legally is right now?
Pardon?
Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the definition.
But the thing that we have to remember is that every dollar still only gets to be spent once. So just because we are now allowed to pay some of those expenses out of one bucket, something else is not going to get paid that was formerly going to get paid out of that bucket. And so that'll be part of our ongoing budget conversations. Thank you, Councilmember Conley.
Yeah.
Admin and finance, do you have a brief update?
Sure. Well, we've discussed most of what we've been going over already tonight, but just so you know, yes, we will be tackling the business registration fee ordinance to, make sure that that's cleaned up. And then, the budget timeline, Lonnie, you already discussed that. Lonnie kind of gave us a brief update on that. Admin would really, I guess, this is just a question for you. Do you have a status for us on, trying to get the mill space pay for fire and library?
No progress.
To a dollar amount instead of mills?
No progress has been made other than the discussion has been open and breached. So that was brought up at our staff meeting.
Okay, because that is probably one of admin's number one priorities, is to change those from mills to a set dollar amount plus inflation. That's one of the reasons I'm trying to put that picture as a percentage of the overall expenses. We have a number that we can use as a reference. The mills-based thing, the way it works, it was generally pretty consistent. This particular year with the fun stuff that they did for us up in Helena, we got less mills, which means the same number of mills is a higher percentage of our budget than it was in the past. So 10 mills used to be 10% of, I'm just making up numbers for illustration purposes. But if 10 mills used to be 10% of our budget, suddenly 10 mills is 12% of our budget, which is great if you're one of those mills ones, not so great if you're the people who now have less to start with and to go across those expenses. So is that a good summary of the issue? Yeah, yes, just know that we definitely want that conversation to move forward. We understand the library, they get currently 7 mills, but it's not a contractual obligation, so we'd really like that reviewed in this budget, because we, as a city, can decide not to. I'm gonna give Jody your number, okay? No,
Okay.
No, that conversation has already been started. Okay, good. But the fire department is an actual contract set at 28 mills, and, you will have to open those negotiations
Yeah.
with the fire department.
And that conversation has already been started a couple times, but nothing is resolved yet.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's.
All All right, land use and planning, can we get a brief update?
Yeah, we had a nice robust discussion on, event versus land use permits. We've been doing land use permits for use of city-owned land, and it was a really lively discussion. We appreciated the mayor being there, and, Pete Critelli and Rob Bastian, who has a lot of history. The concern is that not every event, uses city-owned land, but it does cause expenses to the city. So we're just looking into that quite a bit. We are also, that was actually the bulk of it, but we also talked a little bit about MOUs and leases. The city has MOUs, memorandums of understanding, with different groups, like the Lions Park is an MOU, Silver Strike is a lease. So it's rather, unclear as to when it should be a lease versus when it should be an MOU. And each one is very specific on what they can and can't do with it. And, it was an interesting conversation. So we're looking into trying to revise our use of city-owned land to start with as an event permit. That's where we're going.
Thank you. I would like to add just a small comment to that. For any of you who've ever come in and looked up an MOU, a lease, or a contract, they're all in a series of historical binders dating back to 1929.
1921, when the
1921.
mausoleum was purchased with a contract for deed.
So those,
Get rid
we
of
have
nothing.
all of those historically, but what happens is you have to pull out a book and then look through the numbers and the dates. Sandy worked with the front office staff, and they created basically a book of the indexes of all of those books together. So, if you, now that you have that, if we could get that printed and make that available, it'll just make our job a little bit easier as well.
I
As
believe
if the public ever wants to look something up, it's a little bit easier.
Danae has that, I got that from Danae.
Yeah, but she did it with, my understanding is, was that a single document or is that multiple documents that she printed out?
It was one document.
Okay, if it's one
Yeah, she
document.
has a running list of all of the contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. If you want to come look something up, you can now,
It's
you
impossible.
don't have to look through 18 books,
It's
just 18
impossible.
pages.
On that note, is there only the physical copy?
No, they are also scanned electronically as well.
But
And if you look at the PDF, you can tell
Oh, yeah.
whether
no,
it was
I've
done
seen the
before
view.
those days, because if it has photocopies of the paper punch holes in it, then you know that it was pre-electronic days. All right. Public Works, and I anticipate we'll have some discussion here, so who from Public Works would like to introduce this?
We have a few things happening in Public Works, so I'm just gonna kind of roll down the list if that's okay with you, and keep it short and sweet, but, so yeah, we've had, discussions on, today specifically, we were talking about, the readdressing project as one item, and mostly just want to give a status update. We had a wonderful presentation from Tom Cooley, discussing the pros, cons, and what would need to happen to make that happen, and the whole process. So if there would be some growing pains for sure and some struggles, but he does plan to give a presentation at the next meeting.
The fourth Tuesday, April 23rd.
Thank you, yep. So just so public knows that that will be a conversation, it's, very interesting to see what will happen there. And then in terms of stormwater projects, Chris, would you like to? It's a big one, and I think we're getting a lot of information on it. So essentially, we were approached with a bid from Great West, and for phase 1 and phase 2, plus schedule 1, 2, 3, 8, 7, 9, in terms of the stormwater project. So just a little bit of a recap. We are, I'm okay. We are nearly done with phase 1, correct? And moving to phase 2 and phase 3, and we were.
Can I interject?
Yes, please.
Normally, for these meetings, we have a little time to process, like if you have a meeting in the morning, then you can go back home and kind of look at your notes and get it how you want to introduce it tonight, but we have our Public Works meeting right before this meeting, so if we sound discombobulating, that's why. Yeah.
So honestly, I would love to just turn the table over to these fine gentlemen in the front row, to kind of make a presentation on what has been brought to our attention.
You could minimize that by chance, the things on there. And I will just add as we start that, that this is specifically not up for action today. It's coming as soon as we have available so that we can, prep and because we will have some action that we need to take in the upcoming meetings. And so it's to get that out there.
Yeah, 60 days.
And Lonnie has, provided to council, kind of the steps in the process of why we're here. That will be in the packet next time. What was in the packet this time, just to set up a little background, is the resolution of what we're getting to in an upcoming meeting, which is the resolution of intent to award the phase 2 and 3. And then also included in the packet is the original ordinance where we establish a stormwater utility, so you can see the history there. And at the time, it talks about how the fees will be set up. We set up a maintenance fee and made a call out that in the future, there would be a capital improvement fee that was going to be coming. And so that's where we are now. It's here. We said, yes, we're going to do it. We committed some money and said we will raise the fees, and there was a dollar amount that was provided. And basically, so that's the amount we've already agreed to in years past that we're going to do. And we're going to talk about whether that's the wisest thing or if we want to change that a little bit, because it'll be financially prudent to do so. And with that, thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council. I know most of you, but I'm Chad Hanson with Great West Engineering. I run the Billings office. Brandon Duffy is our project manager on the stormwater project, but he's at a conference in Great Falls, so he asked if I could attend and visit with you guys. Just maybe I'll step back and give a brief overview of the stormwater project as a whole. It began back in 2015. The city approached us and we prepared preliminary engineering report about the stormwater in the city, identified deficiencies, looked at what would be necessary to bring it up to speed. The city kicked it around. They discussed the storm water maintenance district that Dave described and how they wanted to approach that. Got to a point where the city was comfortable setting that up and looked at Bozeman and several others. I believe, Mary, you were on the council at that time when we did that originally. Then in 19, we updated the PER with some of that. Because of the size of the stormwater improvements were necessary, we did break it into phases. Phase 1 started at the creek and worked upstream because we had to have the proper size pipe. The city, we applied for Montana Coal Endowment Program grants and got that grant. And as part of the package, the city had committed matching funds, which was intended to be an SRF loan backed up by the storm maintenance district. And that's where you had committed a certain amount of money and knew a rate increase was coming. Originally, it was just for the sweeping and cleaning of leaves and things. Jim had broke out what they were spending yearly on just storm maintenance that was coming out of the general fund or getting stolen from the sewer fund. As we were doing phase 1 in the design, ARPA rolled around and money started falling out of the sky. And we applied for an ARPA grant for phases 2 and 3, and we're successful getting a $2 million grant for the city for that. The ARPA money had a timeline on it, so the DNRC and the funding agencies asked the city if we move the ARPA grant into phase 1 and the SRF loan into phase 2 and 3. So phase 1, which was completed last summer, is done. Ended up being 100% grant funded, other than the city's contribution for the design. And phase 2 and 3 went from being mostly grant funded to all loan, and the cities, just because they wanted us to ship those around. So we put phase 2 and 3 out to bid. And this is where it gets a little confusing, because it's phase 2 and 3 of the recommended improvements from the PER. But we broke it into schedules by priority, which gives you guys flexibility of, well, we can only afford to do the first piece, the first 2 pieces, and keep moving upstream. The bids came in pretty favorably. We had 4 or 5 bidders. Wilson Brothers Construction of Montana is the low bidder. They're the same firm that did phase 1. They did a great job. After getting the bids, we prepared the bid tabs. We looked at the recommendations. We are recommending, at the city's discretion, that you award all 3 schedules of phase 2 and 3. And we tried to do an impact for you guys, kind of analysis. And the best way I can describe it, we go in and we do a funding strategy and calculate the SRF loan the best we can and what that might do to your rates. We're like, if you get online and you Google a mortgage calculator and you plug in the numbers and it gives you, this will be your payment. We're pretty close, but when your bond counsel starts working with the state and they do dial into it, that number may go up a quarter, down a quarter. But we should be pretty close, and we're usually actually pretty conservative. It usually goes down. But the impacts, as outlined in the letter of recommendation, if the city decided to award all 3 schedules, it would be a $10.40 per month rate increase to the storm maintenance district. Schedules 1 and 2 would be about $7.83, and just Schedule 1 would be about $3 per month per lot for a rate increase on the storm maintenance district.
So just for clarification, what was formerly known as phase 2 and phase 3 is now broken up into 3 parts,
It's still
Schedule
phase
1, 2, and 3.
2 and 3, but we sat down with Jim and then confirmed it with Mike before it went to bid on the priorities, trying to get more flexibility in the award. We break a lot of our projects into schedules, so we get the highest priority, and if there's enough money, we can add another block or another 2 blocks to maximize that. So, the process from here would be, we need the city, the council to decide, how many, if any of the schedules you want to award. Then we would take that information and we'd work with your bond counsel, Dorsey and Whitney, to finalize the SRF loan. And then the next step, they would prepare a resolution for the bond obligation for the loan. You guys would have to pass that resolution. And then I would recommend not awarding the project until we have the money to pay the contractor. That's the way I like to see it happen. So we'd do the resolution for the SRF loan, taking on that obligation, award the project, if you guys decide to award, if you decide to award it to Wilson Brothers. And then you'd start the process, as Lonnie kind of outlined, to raise that storm maintenance district. The SRF loan would close during construction, probably this summer or early fall. And your first payment would be due at the earliest January for half a year. So if you could have the rates in place by July 1st, the start of the fiscal year, you should have those rates building up for that first payment and everything. You wouldn't end up in arrears, kind of like the trash. So that's kind of the timing on things and where we're going. Any questions on kind of how we got here and where we're, the next steps?
Are we using any of the storm, the 1% resort tax for the stormwater? Are we using any of that for the repayment of that bond?
No. So you guys have that option,
Okay.
but the intent of the 1% that was added to the resort tax is, so we can go through and we can do the pipe and all the inlets, and we can get you grant money and assistance with that through the SRF and these other grant programs. What we can't get grant money for our loans is the curb and gutter and paving the parking lanes that actually takes the water to the inlets from the storm. So the intent, when they set up the 1% was, and we are doing it right now in the Streets Project 1, where we're going behind the phase 1 to put the pipe in the ground, and now we're gonna do what we can with that 1% to do the curb and gutter in the street part. So there's actually curbs directing the stormwater to the inlets. They're collecting it now, but it's still gonna pond along the edges. You guys know what it looks like over in the road, so. You do have the option of moving that money around. Some of it was used in the phase 1 stormwater as a contingency, but most of it was not touched and then rolled right back into the account. What was that money, about 240 that rolled back in?
And we did have a conversation with the bond council, because that was part of the conversation. How much below that $10.40 if we use some of the 1% to do there? And their recommendation, aside from the purpose of that you can use that money for a couple of different purposes, but grant money is only available for the one, not the stuff on top. Their secondary thing was, we recommend that you don't use it because you keep it available. So he's talking about if we have the funding in place by July, then we have the money to start making our loan payments. If we don't yet have enough to make that first loan payment, then we can use it out of that stormwater fund that's there. Additionally, as we get things done, we have the option of using that money to pay that SRF loan early, which is always nice, as we can go and pay things off early. So it was basically the numbers that were recommended by the engineering as well as the bond. We had a call, I was involved, we had our city clerk involved, we had the engineer involved in Public Works, and their recommendation was build it out as it has been built out. It was done this way on purpose, and know that we have that resort tax 1% to be used in a couple of ways. We have some flexibility in the future, either to put the polish on the top of it, to pay it off early, to compensate if we're a little bit behind and haven't collected enough fees to do our payment yet.
So,
Their recommendation was don't factor that in, don't spend everything right up front and
Right.
factor to the penny.
when, the stormwater was first presented to us, it was going to be a multi-year project. If I remember right, it was going to go out several years.
It was always intended that it would be a phased project.
Right.
The ARPA funding opportunities that came along, because you had the planning in place and the PDRs, and we could show phase one as match, accelerated the schedule significantly because we were able to get that $2 million grant.
Right.
And so it moved 2 and 3 probably up a year or two.
So what would be the projected end date for the stormwater project if we
Oh, here's the good,
do all of it?
here's the good part. This part in front of us, the stormwater is done in,
Well,
Maybe not
it
that
may
year
never
before?
be done technically, but in the PER, so phases 1 was the main trunk line, comes up by the sanctuary and across by the ball fields and then ties in on the north end here. And that's the main trunk line that'll drain everything. Phases 2 and 3 continue on, and they're gonna pick up most of Broadway and most of the storm runoff and finish separating the MDT storm sewer from your septic system, your sanitary sewer, and some other storm drains. And it will get the bulk of the deficiencies. In my honest opinion, prior phases 1, 2, and 3 were the important ones. Phase 4 is some stuff on the south end that would be really nice to do, but isn't as huge a priority. And then phase 5 was random, looking at the storm runoff that comes from the high school parking lot and the sanctuary, and if we can do some BMP, some retention ponds and that little grove of aspens over there by the ball fields, little random culvert improvements. So 1, 2, 3 were the big ones.
those were the ones we were holding our breath until they
Okay.
were done.
And then phase 4 is some stuff down on 19th, upsizing that storm sewer and a few things. There is storm sewer, it's just undersized, but, they're probably, at this time, talking to Jim and now Mike, he agrees, they're a lower priority than stuff we need to do on the wastewater system and things. So we're gonna pursue wastewater grants this spring, because we can only apply for one of the systems every 2 years, so.
So
You're
are
killing me,
you-
Smalls. He didn't do the answer. By the end of this year, or possibly into next year, our stormwater system is addressed.
Phase 2 and 3.
Phase 2 and
Right.
3.
Which are
That's
the
what we're-
important ones. If we award it, it would go to construction this summer and would be done hopefully this fall. Again, there may be some paving or something that rolls over in the spring of 2025.
And just for a point of clarification, we can get grants for what's above the dirt but not what's underneath, is that what I
Other way
heard?
around.
Other way around.
So,
We were able to get you some grant money for the pipe, the stormwater
Sure.
pipe. We cannot get you,
grant money for,
there's currently not any grant for funding for street improvements, or even though the curb and gutter and paving the parking lanes is required to make the stormwater system work, we can't get grants for that.
My only concern is that when we sold I'm sorry, Chris, you've had your hand up for
I'm
like
sorry.
5 minutes.
You mentioned Broadway, does that mean that would get ripped up?
No.
here and here.
Okay.
We're gonna
I
cross
had
it
that map,
twice.
but I didn't look at it. Yeah.
We're gonna cross it just like we did the
So
other.
4th of
ones.
July, that's when you're gonna dig down here, right?
We have a standard Red Lodge clause, and we don't even let them work that week.
So to go where I think you're at, because this is the question that's come up is, do we have stormwater on Broadway? And if you've gone by Broadway, you see the drains that are there. The question is, where do those drains go?
Yeah.
And so there's actually a secondary part of this that I didn't hear discussed, but my understanding is that we will be looking, as we do our portions, that we'll be working with, is it MDT or the state, basically, to get the laterals to drain into our stormwater system as opposed to our sewer system.
Yeah, there's, do you remember which cross street it is, Mike, up here?
It's from
8 to 14?
14, pretty
Yeah,
much.
it goes down and all the cammering and stuff we can do, the storm drain on Broadway drains into the sanitary sewer, so we want to drain into the new storm sewer, so it's not going into the lagoons.
The 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11th, I think, is the
Which is
side
right
street.
here. I think it's this,
This is 11.
yeah, right here. It's great.
There might be, yeah. But that is one of the intents of the whole project, was to separate stormwater from the sanitary sewer system.
So one of the issues right now, and this is somewhat anecdotal because we can't give you exact numbers, but more of what we treat originates from stormwater than from sewer.
Right.
Which also means we don't have the ability to build out to capacity with our existing ponds. We can either add more ponds or we can take away the stuff that we're adding to them.
Sure.
You add to that during the flood, there were a lot of people holding their breath about whether those ponds were gonna overflow because we were exceeding the capacity, because all of our stormwater was going there. So to me, the idea of having the major concerns of the stormwater done at the end of this year is huge. And Mike, if you would share a story, you talked to a city that broke it up into 2 or 3 different sections and did it 2 or 3 years later.
Well, it was a long-term project that they tried to push through, all as one big project in Lockwood. I think they gave a presentation last week at the conference up there, and at the end of it, they broke it into 3 phases in order to get the voters to approve it. And at the end, they're finishing up phase 3 now. This is a much longer-term project, but they said, for what phase 3 cost is what the whole thing was budgeted to cost. And the thing that we need to think about is, and Chad can probably speak to this more accurately, but in the last 4 years, the cost of doing this kind of work is just skyrocketed.
The last 3 years, it's gone through the roof.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I don't think that's going to change
Yeah.
with all this money that's out there, because it's inflation.
And we talked to the,
Waiting, we're gonna spend more money.
yeah, it's gonna keep going up, but right now, I talked to Nick Wilson, who's president, or one of those exact title is with Wilson Brothers, and the pipe prices have stabilized right now. We hit a sweet spot with this bid. The numbers came in almost the same as phase 1 last year, which we expected them to go up quite a bit. I mean, per foot of pipe, I mean, it's a bigger project, but, so, Mike's right, we don't know, and again, costs have skyrocketed the last 3 years. I am fortunate enough to live in phase 3 of Lockwood, so my assessment's gonna be quadruple what it originally was gonna be, but that's how it works, but.
And so while there was pain up front, they tried to avoid the pain. What's the joke about cutting the dog's tail off an inch at a time so it doesn't hurt so much? I know, it's about, some dogs they do that, not mine. But the short version of the story is, they didn't save any money in the long run.
Right.
They ended up paying for phase 3 what they would have paid to have done the whole thing up front. And so that's the decision, and I said, you've got the paperwork about how this all started.
Mhm.
You got a couple of weeks to reach out with questions, to review, to research and whatnot. Our goal at the next meeting is to award the bid, but as we do that, what we need to do is we need to say, how much of a chunk are we gonna bite off? And as mayor, I'm not gonna basically award that bid without council's permission to go sign this contract for X number of dollars. So that's what I'm looking for you guys to decide.
The one other thing I would, along with the volatile prices of the last few years, all the money on the street, there's high demand and contractors are busy. I did a $2.5 million job over in West Brenda, we got 0 bidders, and then we expanded and did a $4 million job and got 1 bidder. You guys got 4 good bidders, got a good price, contractor we know who did the first phase, gonna do a good job, so there's a lot to that as well, that you have
good to
really
know.
good numbers, and when you see really tight numbers where the contractors are close, you know that that's the true cost, they really sharpened their pencils for you, and it's a contractor we can trust,
Yeah.
so.
They spent the year here last year, and they know what caliber of restaurants we have.
Yeah, I mean, my only concern is that if we're increasing a fee on somebody's property taxes, $10 a month, it's gonna be an extra $120 a year.
$174 back.
No, you're not, that's monthly. So, I mean, we just have to be, they're again cognizant of that fact, and when we passed the 1% for the stormwater, I was on the resort tax committee, and we told the people that this would pay for our stormwater project, and that they would not have a property tax increase.
Well, and to be
So,
fair,
I'm like-
this, and one of the
I'm having
things
kind of a hard time
we
with
need to,
that.
so one of the things we need to understand is this is, what we're proposing is a fee increase, not a tax increase. Now, the pros and the cons are, that means council makes the decision rather than going to the voters directly. The 1% that is collected via the resort tax is in fact going to go to this, and it is gonna help pay for it. The question is, do we want it to take however many years it is to pay for it at that 1% rate, and do a little piece and a little piece and a little piece and a little piece?
That was the original plan.
And it was, and as
And I
money.
understand exactly what they're saying, that it's cheaper to do this all right now.
Well, and there's a couple of things that have changed since the original plan. One of them is the flood changed our picture. We realized that vulnerability is significant.
Well, and
if-
just ask all the homeowners on South Platte.
Well,
who
and if I
toilets
prioritize city
had flood water
services,
coming up through them and flooding their
Yeah.
basements.
number one list, if I look at services, sewer, it needs to go away. That's like the top one on the list. And right now, our stormwater is messing with that. The other thing that's happened with the pandemic is we have a lot of development going on. When that sewer system was designed, and they said, this is the sewer system that will work and function for Red Lodge, the assumption was it will only be treating sewer. It won't be treating stormwater as well. As our growth rate is increasing, we're pushing the limits of that sewer system if we don't back some of the stormwater out of there.
Things change.
I understand that. We're gonna get some pushback.
Where does the stormwater go?
Right now, into the sewer.
I know now, but with this new system, where does the stormwater go?
There's an inlet down behind the sanctuary that ties into the same, ditch that MDT's, when they did the roundabout in that project, it'd be just north along the sanctuary, and then it dumps into the creek down there.
So it does go into the creek
Mhm.
eventually.
Does it
Yep.
get treated at all, or it just goes straight
No.
into them? Okay.
Rainwater that's kept separate is rainwater.
Right.
Rainwater that mixes with sewer is called sewer.
Right, no, I know that. I didn't know if because it was over
Stormwater's coming
there.
off of our streets, which has rubber and oil and stuff
Right.
like that, and that's why I wanted to know
Yeah.
where it eventually goes.
And there is a kind of a pondy settling thing, anyway. Councilmember Keith, thank you for your patience.
Clarification, you said it would be done by fall, is that 2024 or 2025? I mean, if that is,
This year.
Construction would go this year, and our hope would be it'd be done this fall, but it may, if we
Yeah.
push up to Thanksgiving, I'm probably not gonna let them pave in Red Lodge, and they'd have to let it set through the winter and then come back and pave next spring, the spring of 2025.
okay.
That was the same situation we had last year. Kind of weather dependent.
Sure.
Your guys' construction season is short and flexible.
So you said that all the stormwater project is underground, so when you dig up the roads, you don't fix the roads again?
We will fix the trench where the pipe is, just like we did on phase one. But behind it, with the 1% tax, we're doing the parking lanes and the curb and gutter and putting in the crown so the water drains away from the road and goes to the inlets better. And for the 1% storm, just as a quick update, we are working on streets, project one, which included your Barca money, Senate Bill 536 money, 1% tax for the stormwater to tile those inlets in. And then the EDA approached us and encouraged the city to apply for disaster relief funds, which, that's all your projects, that's the one they like. So by the end of the week, next week, we'll submit that, and that would turn the project from 800,000 into 3.7 million. They want to give you 3 million in grants to pave the whole phase one and not do it in little pieces. And then, you know, because the plan was a couple blocks every few years.
Yeah,
So, that's, but I was just making sure, that doesn't include the curb and gutter, that just is the road.
No,
Does
that's the
include
curb and gutter and the
So that we
parking lane.
can get grants for curb and gutter.
Well, this would be a first.
Okay, well, that's why I wanted to double check, cause like, I was told one thing before, and I'm like, I just
So
wanna
the
make
standard,
sure.
like the Montana Co-Endowment Program, that's every 2 years, we can get water, wastewater, stormwater grants from them, but they won't fund the streets.
Sure.
The
Okay.
RGL program's the same. The normal ones we have,
Okay.
a lot of this federal money that's flowing through has different rules that they are having to make up on the fly.
Okay,
Like
so there
ARPA, we
is
would,
the possibility for getting curb and gutter paid for by grants currently for phase one.
this EDA,
Phase
they have
two,
this
phase three.
one-time bucket of money they want to put towards that, yep.
And then, so phase two, phase three, that would be our responsibility down the road, and very unlikely that we'd be able to get grant money to pay for it.
Very unlikely unless another federal one-time opportunity arose.
Yeah.
And in a
And that we'd
worst
be
case
back to the
situation,
plan of the 1% doing 2 or 3 blocks of the curb and gutter every other year.
or the other thing is, if that money does fall from the sky and we use it, then we use the 1% and just pay off the loan rate.
Right.
Or use that 1% for match.
Yeah, for match for those grants if it's a requirement.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what we're doing with EDA grant, that they can. I didn't think they were gonna deem the street one eligible, but they did, and that's one they like, so, because it's in the urban renewal district and Broadway, and they pulled a lot of things together, so.
Cool.
Good.
Mike, is there anything you wanted to add that I missed? Bonnie? I covered. Any questions from council on where we're at?
I'll have some later, I'm
I know.
sure.
I can leave a card. You're more than welcome.
I really appreciate you guys doing that, because I obviously was fumbling through it, because this is a lot of information to take on, and it's a very large expense. And even though it's only $10 a month per person, it's still a very large expense.
It is, and I would encourage you guys to, we can have them here again in 2 weeks, so as you write down all the questions, as you look at it and think at it, the original was, we need to get this done, we need to get this awarded, can you get it on for action? And the pushback was, that's not how we do things in Red Lodge. We're gonna talk about it, we're gonna have time to come up with our questions, and then we'll come back next time and hopefully be able to answer those.
Do you wanna talk about the deadline at all?
So they're basically, those
60
folks aren't
day
gonna wait,
deadline?
yeah, and that's from the date of award,
But so
Which
from the
is-
bid opening,
bid opening, sorry.
from the bid opening, which was the 14th off the top of my head, you have 60 days to award the project unless we get a letter from Wilson Brothers saying, yeah, we'll give you another 30 days, which
But-
Nick will give us.
But again,
Yeah.
and our construction season gets shorter and quick, so,
Yeah.
so
That's the other
We
thing,
need to hire.
if we want it done this year, we need to get it
Yeah.
rolling.
So what is
That's
that
what
60 days, when were the bids?
Let me double check so I don't get the date wrong.
Yeah.
It was March 14th
March 14th?
was the bid opening.
But you would definitely, I mean, construction season could start any time,
Yeah.
depending on, it gets the weather, I mean,
Yep.
April, May,
So we're
Once
wanting
it's
to stop
actually
it.
July 1st.
I would like to have the resolution to award, to authorize me to sign the award letter, which is in their packet, so you already have a sample of that to look like. I'd like to have that for action next time, so we'll put it on the agenda. Having said that, if council does not feel comfortable, you have the option of pushing it, tabling it, as we saw with something today. New information has come up. It feels like, I mean, last time we had one that came up that we didn't feel we had the time to evaluate. So let's make smart decisions.
We're doing a resolution to pick how many schedules, right? The board comes later.
So the process, we need, yes, the resolution, the council and the city need to decide how many, if any of the schedules.
One
want to
and
award.
2, or 1, 2, and 3.
Right, or none, which I would not recommend, but then we'll work with Dorsey and Whitney and finalize the paperwork for the loan, and there'll be a resolution, your obligation, bond obligation, that you're gonna pay the loan back. And then, once that's in place, I would not recommend the mayor actually sign the notice of award until we have that in place. But the resolution intent would give him
The ability-
authorization to sign that once the funding's in place.
What is our contractual obligation based on decisions we have already made in the past when we said, yes, go through the work, make us the effort, make us a bid?
You have no contractual obligation.
Okay, so we could say nothing.
You can reject all the bids and decide not to award anything if you so choose.
So that's not always the case, but in this case it is.
It's always the case on our project. We set it up that way. If they'd come in twice the estimate and they're like, no way,
No, yeah, but.
we would just say, we're not gonna award the project.
I recall once where we said, like, if they came in below the projection, we were obligated to move forward with it. I'm thinking of like the pool or some of those other.
That might have been with the pool, but
Yeah.
I would never recommend that language. Because, it puts you on the hook before you even know what the number is.
May I interrupt you for 12 brief seconds? Can I get a quick motion to extend the meeting past 8?
Make a motion to extend the meeting past 8.
Wait a second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay, meeting is extended for a couple minutes, we can keep going. All right, any other questions for Chad?
Again, probably just line some out and get those sent off to you guys.
Mike is really good, you have my blessing. If you would just carbon me on those to keep me in the loop. Remember that, council does not guide nor direct staff, but you can ask questions to your heart content. So please remember that as far as the format goes.
And we're not super strict, I don't even know, right, our contract says that Mike's our designated representative, so it is better. Plus, I want Mike in the loop and Lonnie, if your questions go through them to us.
Okay.
And Brandon and I can get back to them. But the last thing I ever want is Mike not to be in the loop on something.
You don't want 6 council people bombarding you with.
I'm
20
happy as long as Mike's in the loop.
A good idea. Should we try and compile a list of questions that we can have available by next week for these guys, so they're not getting bombarded? And we can have it just one list of questions that gets submitted?
And I would say that's what the planning committee, so the standing committee for public works, I would think the 3 of you should work to do that. You should certainly enlist
Yeah.
input from the others, but as far as like communications go,
Like, we can send our questions to Public Works Committee and they can get
Yeah.
with Mike on it. So he's not getting bombarded with questions from 6
and again,
council
our goal is not to create an electronic quorum either.
people. Yeah,
Correct. Yep.
that would kind of help that too.
So how about this, if anyone here on council, if you want to send me questions by, call it next Tuesday, or,
Copy all 3 of us, so please, from the committee.
okay, yeah, that
So
works.
we can.
Blind copy.
Yeah, because the person sending it would make 4, so blind
Right.
copied if you're gonna send it to all 3.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting, one, just to avoid that, but. and then
Yeah,
I
just
can
blind copy
send
it, and then it won't be.
And if you happen to get an email with more than 3 council members on it, and counting you, don't hit reply all.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Our pleasure.
thank you very much.
Very helpful.
I appreciate it.
All right. Any additional correspondence anybody has received that we need to call out that's not in the packet?
Did I receive this in the packet?
All right. We have now reached public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. I'll go ahead and open public comment first for those in the room, if you'd like to comment on anything. We will extend that to online. Let me stop sharing so I can see if we have people online. How do I stop? How do I do it?
Click it.
Just click it, yeah.
Well, I can do that, but then it's, you are sharing your screen.
There should be at the top, right, stop share?
Stop share there. That's what I was looking for. All right. All right. So now you can see if there's anyone online who has questions that would like to make public comments. That'll work too. All right. Public comment going once. I heard a sound.
Like grunt.
Going twice? 3 times, we'll close public comment. I will accept a motion for number 12.
I move to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for
Thank you.
coming tonight.
Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.
Yeah, right?
If they had come to us, really, in advance of the presentation, we'd have been under, we'd been